Mangwana ni Malelepo Vukenjani Class Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning. On today's show, Nigeria's Peter Obi confirms he will run for president in 2027, potentially destabilizing the opposition coalition. In Chad, opposition leader Succès Masra ends a week-long hunger strike from jail. A Tunisian court jails a government critic, raising fresh concerns over authoritarianism. Ghanaian victims of human traffic are rescued in Nigeria, while Botswana's report features Ian Khama's accusations towards Masisi, enterprise reforms, a new judo center, and mourning for musical legend Jeff Matetau. Plus, India deploys geologists to Zambia to explore vital mineral deposits. Watch us on DSTV 285, GOTV 251up2.com, and Network Media Hub on YouTube, as well as NTV Africa on YouTube and Africa Good Morning on TikTok. Yes, we are everywhere you need us to be. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly.
Running a business isn't just about hitting the big milestones, it's also about handling the day-to-day. From equipping your office, to closing deals over lunch, to managing your team's expenses while they're on the go. Now, with the FNB Business Credit Card, you can handle everyday expenses with ease. Enjoy up to 44 days of interest-free credit, unlimited swipes, and real-time expense tracking, so you're always in control. Apply for an FNB Business Credit Card. Contact us today to get started. FNB, how can we help you?
We start our top stories in Nigeria. Former presidential candidate Peter Obi has officially confirmed he will contest Nigeria's 2027 general election, but has ruled out running on a joint ticket with fellow opposition leader Atiku Abubakar. Now, Obi, who spoke during a live stream on X, emphasized the need for broad consultation and putting Nigeria first, but his spokesperson later dismissed any notion of being Abubakar's deputy. Both men are key figures in the All Democratic Alliance, a coalition formed to unite opposition parties, including the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party, against President Bola Tinubu. However, the ADA has been riddled with internal conflict, including cancelled meetings and unresolved debate about whether to form a new party or rally under an existing one. Political analysts suggest that personal ambitions within the coalition may ultimately derail it. Dr. Abdul Wasi Masood of Lagos State University notes Obi's stature and past candidacy make it practically impossible for him to play second fiddle. He adds that the ADA lacks a unified vision beyond winning power. With such internal discord, the opposition's hopes of a united front in 2027 appear increasingly fragile. The coming months will be pivotal in determining whether ADA survives or fractures further. Chadian opposition leader and former Prime Minister Succès Masra has ended his hunger strike after a week, according to a statement released by his legal team. Masra, detained since May 16, had begun the hunger strike last Tuesday in protest against imprisonment and charges which include incitement to hatred, complicity in murder, and other serious crimes linked to violence in Mandakao that left 42 people dead. His lawyers reported that although physically weakened, Masra remains mentally resilient and suspended the strike following medical advice that his medication requires food intake. A group of around 20 women from his political party, the Transformateurs, staged a dramatic protest over the weekend in their undergarments in N'Djamena, demanding his immediate release. The Chadian government alleges Masra's rhetoric incited the violence in Logon Occidental, where the victims were mainly women and children. Masra, a popular figure in southern Chad, particularly among the Christian community, is seen as a symbol of resistance against what many view as an exclusionary Muslim-dominated regime in the capital. His detention has drawn growing attention and public sympathy, further intensifying political tensions ahead of a potential reform or elections in the country. A Tunisian court has sentenced Sonia Damani, a well-known lawyer and outspoken critic of President Saied, to 2 years in prison in a move condemned by human rights groups as part of an escalating crackdown on dissent. Dlamini was arrested last year after making public remarks criticizing government's treatment of sub-Saharan African migrants, which authorities claim violated Tunisia's controversial cybercrime law. Decree 54. Her legal team withdrew from the trial after the judge refused to adjourn the session, arguing she was being prosecuted twice for the same statement. Lawyers Bassem Trifi and Sami Benghazi labeled the ruling a grave injustice and a farce. Dlamini's sentencing reflects what critics describe as Tunisia's slide into authoritarianism under Saied, who has ruled by decree since dissolving parliament in 2021. While Saied insists his actions are legal and meant to fight corruption, opposition leaders, journalists, and activists say he is weaponizing the judiciary to silence dissent. The case has further inflamed concerns over freedom of speech and judicial independence in the North African country. Dlamini's conviction is seen as yet another blow to democratic norms in Tunisia, once hailed as a rare success story of the Arab Spring. And 76 Ghanaians have been rescued from Nigeria after falling victim to a fraudulent recruitment scheme that promised football contracts, overseas jobs, visa assistance. According to Ghanaian police, the victims, mainly young men, had their documents and phones seized upon arrival and were forced into cramped living conditions. They were coerced into calling family members to solicit about $1,000 under false pretenses, while their contacts were exploited for further scams. The rescue, conducted between 19 May and 27 June, was a joint effort by Ghana's CID, Interpol, and Nigerian law enforcement. 7 Ghanaian suspects have been arrested so far. CID head Lydia Yako Donkor urged families to verify opportunities before acting on them, revealing that victims are often made to travel by road to unfamiliar countries where they are confined to overcrowded holding camps and pressured into deceiving others. Donkor described the psychological and economic impact on the victims as severe, stating that many are too malnourished and traumatized to return to normal life. The scam has been linked to QNet, a company banned in Ghana in 2022 for allegedly operating a Ponzi scheme, though the firm denies wrongdoing. Authorities continue to pursue those responsible for the widespread trafficking operation. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. It's Wednesday, which means we'll be talking to Rorisang Mogojwe as she delivers the Botswana report. But prior to that, it's the weather. All right, it's time for us to cross over to Botswana to talk to Rorisang Mogojwe, who hadn't been with us for the last couple of weeks. She wasn't feeling well, but it is fantastic to have you back right here, Rorisang Dumela.
I am really good, Ashwin, and let me tell you something, it feels really good to be back, so thank you very much for that very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be right here in Africa. Good morning.
All right, let's get first into your first story. Ian Khama, former president of Botswana, has accused Mokgweetsi Masisi, the most recently former president of Botswana, of human rights violations against the Khama family.
So the 1st of August is Senator Khama Day, and it is a day that is celebrated nationally or commemorated in honor of the founding father, the founding president of the Republic of Botswana, Khama, who is former President Ian Khama's father. Now, during these commemorations, former President Khama did accuse his predecessor, Mokgweetsi Masisi, of subjecting the Khama family to human rights abuses. He said that his father would be shocked by what he called the abandonment of Botswana's human rights principles. And if we recall, Khama and Masisi had a very public and very high-profile falling out under the Masisi administration, and therefore Khama alleged that Masisi harassed members of the Khama family. He had them detained, he had them assaulted, and he had their homes raided, and this ultimately led to them fleeing the country and going into self-imposed exile for more than 3 years in South Africa as well as Eswatini. And because of this, he said they also missed their sister Jacqueline Khama's funeral. They were not able to attend due to, this harassment that he says was imposed upon the Khama family.
And the character of betrayal, persecution, and vindictiveness, this time not by the British, but by our very own, raised its evil and ugly head when my family, my friends, the tribe, and anyone associated were targeted in an unprecedented and criminal manner. Standing here as I am, representing the Khama family, as shown on this program, on this occasion commemorating Succès Masra, I would be failing in my responsibilities as such, not to draw attention to the unprecedented persecution the family of Succès has been subjected to in recent years. The family of the man we are here to honor were forced to leave their country after more than 60 years living in peace and harmony, where we were raided in theirs and our parents' homes. Our residences were searched and sealed. At poisoning, causing most of the family to move outside our country. My father would have been shocked and disgusted at the abandonment of rule of law and human rights that we and many other Botswana were subjected to. No person calling himself a Botswana could act in this way. It is ironic that one of my father's and my successors from his party, the BDP, was directly responsible for treating the founding father of this nation's family in this way.
Now, Rorisang, moving on, President Duma Boko launched reforms targeting state-owned enterprises, demanding better performance, transparency, and profit.
Yeah, so the president announced major reforms that will be taking place across Botswana state-owned enterprises and parastatals due to the poor performance of these enterprises as well as mismanagement and financial losses. What he did was gather the CEOs of the various parastatals in the country, and during this meeting he did urge them all to improve productivity as well as become self-sustaining and target international markets, because most if not all really of these state-owned enterprises do rely on government funding, and because the government has announced several times that government coffers are running empty, therefore these organizations actually bleed the budget of the country. They are very weighty on the budget of the company, and they are not cost effective in terms of service delivery. And so the president then announced a national transformation program, which is an expert-led initiative that aims to accelerate the development, the economic development of the country, as well as revive some of these organizations in key sectors of the country. He also did mention the fact that there is a forensic audit that is currently underway and has already revealed serious issues of maladministration within some of these organizations. And so he made it clear that these parastatals and state-owned enterprises should shift and must shift from being liabilities to strategic assets that continue to, contribute meaningfully to national development. And these comments or these announcements by the president are made in light of the fact that Botswana is currently grappling with the need to revive and to stimulate economic growth in the country, because like I just said, the country is really broke, and therefore the UDC-led government is actually under immense pressure to, fix the economy and stimulate the economic growth and development of the country.
All right, Rorisang. Now, Botswana will build a judo training center in Dukwi with help from the International Judo Federation, focusing on youth development and sports growth. And this is following President Boko's Hungary visit.
The establishment of a judo training facility in the village of Dukwi is part of a national push by the government to grow the sport as well as empower youth through athletics. This announcement was made by the president, who, by the way, says that he also has a judo belt. I can't recall which color he said he has, but he said he's somewhat of a judo master himself. And so he announced that he's really, really stoked about, the International Judo Federation's agreement and commitment to setting up this training facility in Botswana. And it just shows a commitment by the IJF really to supporting judo development in Botswana. This facility is expected to serve as a center for training as well as youth development, particularly in underserved regions of the country, in the rural areas where we know the sport is not that very popular. And we do know that this Dukwi project is part of a broader cooperation or broader collaboration between Botswana and Hungary, which includes cooperation in education, in agriculture, as well as in agro-processing. And this announcement, by the way, was made by the president following his visit to Hungary. And he did mention that in addition to this new facility, the IJF has also pledged to expand judo programs in Botswana schools, aiming to empower youth through structured physical and moral education.
All right, Rorisang, we end on a rather sad note. Botswana mourns legendary musician Jeff Matetau, who died at 58.
The local music industry in Botswana is in mourning after one of their own, Jeff Matetau, a celebrated artist who passed away unfortunately on the morning of Friday the 27th of June at his home in Francistown after a short illness. He was only 58 years old. Matetau was a celebrated figure in Botswana's music scene, best known for his contribution to kwasa music, or rumba as we call it across the African continent. He was widely respected for his creativity, for his mentorship, and a deep passion for the art, which really did go beyond national borders. And news of his death sparked an outpouring of grief from local artists and musicians, as well as fans and industry peers, as many remember him as a dedicated artist who was also passionate about mentoring and nurturing local talent as well as upcoming talent. And he will leave a lasting legacy in Botswana's music and cultural landscape. His passing, as many say, does mark the end of an era and leaves a deep void in the local music industry. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Rorisang, for delivering the Botswana report.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashwin. Until next time, a very good morning to you, Africa. Salang Sindle.
All right. Now, India is sending geologists to Zambia to explore copper and cobalt deposits. We'll be talking about that in economic news after the indicators. Getting into economic news, as highlighted before, India has sent a team of geologists to Zambia to begin exploration of copper and cobalt deposits as part of its broader strategy to secure critical minerals vital to its green energy transition, according to two Indian government sources. Zambia has granted India 9,000 square kilometers for exploration targeting cobalt used in batteries and electronics, and copper, a key component in construction and energy infrastructure. The three-year project will include multiple site visits, with most of the analytical work taking place in Indian labs. After assessing the deposit's commercial potential, India may seek a mining lease from Zambia and invite private sector involvement. This move aligns with India's strategy of acquiring mineral assets through government-to-government arrangements in Africa, Latin America, and Australia. India is also in talks with the Democratic Republic of Congo on a similar agreement and recently sent officials to a mining conference there. The country's copper imports have risen sharply since Vedatta's Sterlite smelter shut in 2018, with 1.2 million metric tons imported in the fiscal year ending March 2025. India remains heavily reliant on cobalt imports, with 2024-25 figures showing a 20% increase in cobalt oxide imports. India's Ministry of Mines has not commented publicly on the initiative. That's been our economic news story, and those have been our stories on Africa Good Morning. Thank you for joining us on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, and Network Media Hub, and NTV Africa on YouTube. Keep in mind, on oneup2.com, should you want to rewatch this episode or other episodes of Africa Good Morning, just head over to Echo. You'll see it right there when you log on to oneup2.com. But for now, from me, Ashwin Bedi, and the Africa Good Morning team, we'll be back tomorrow focusing on all of Africa and, of course, the South Africa report with Ari Hochad. Suraj Akanaka.